As the Dachshund entered the enclosure, the big male lion, who lived there, stopped. As the big cat slowly approached the tiny dog, the keepers could only watch. It was too late to save the dog. The lion sniffed the dog and locked eyes. It surprised everyone. When John Reinck brought a new lion cub into the big cat sanctuary, he never imagined he would be in such a difficult situation with dozens of guests watching with their mouths agape. John raised young Bonediger. "I've been with him from day one," John said. "Be vigilant. Always remember they are natural stalkers." After veterinarians determined Bonediger would not survive in the wild, John took him to the GW Interactive Zoological Park in Wynnewood, Oklahoma. The lion's intimidating name and John's dread when the dog was in his claws came from this. Bonediger had metabolic bone disease at birth. The rare condition made the lion's bones grow abnormally and become more brittle. This meant the animal could never live in the wild and was severely disadvantaged. John had to stay vigilant. John put out many fires as park manager at the notorious zoo. If you like my videos, don't forget to like or subscribe. Thanks in advance. Joe Tiger King Exotics big cat stunts attracted more visitors as the park gained popularity. It quickly attracted a different clientele. John guarded them. The park filled with visitors, but not for the big cats. They wanted to see Joe Exotic. The park's detractors, enemies Joe's and a few extreme animal rights activists, arrived in droves, hoping something would go wrong. Something happened that day. John, especially, was unprepared. For Dachshunds lived with John at the sanctuary. He preferred Abby. Some visitors were annoyed by the dogs running loose in the park, stealing food from the cafeteria and getting underfoot. The wiener dog actually thinks she's a lion, and the lion thinks he's a wiener dog, John laughed. Despite their identity crises, one animal is much larger and more dangerous. John, who appeared in Netflix's Tiger King, believed Bonediger wasn't a threat to him or the other animals because of their special bond. Working with 180 cats is risky. Never know your time. "I would die doing what I loved," he said. John had died before. He lost both legs. After a 1994 bungee jump went wrong, John fell 55 feet without a rope, breaking his feet, back, and hip. Worse, he landed on a 6-inch metal stake. John refused to be deterred by doctors' predictions that he would never walk again. John walked again with physiotherapy and determination. Unfortunately, repeated infections forced John to have surgery and use prosthetics. John, a stubborn man who loved living dangerously, returned to his work. Naturally, he couldn't move as fast. Due to their shared disability, John loved Bonediger more than any other animal. However, being separated from the other animals was making Bonediger anxious and unhappy. He took advantage when an oblivious creature entered his den. Tony, another big cat, raised Bonediger. The tiger cub and Bonediger were born in the sanctuary together. John had to keep Bonediger in his own enclosure because the animals were getting too rowdy and risking injury. He stayed until an uninvited guest was thrown into the ring. Bonediger would pace the enclosure aimlessly and bite the fence to express his dissatisfaction with being alone. John worried. He knew it was best for Bonediger's safety, but he couldn't watch him act out due to his loneliness. He felt like the doctors who told him his limits in 1994. John wanted to help Bonediger. John knew he couldn't reintroduce Bonediger's old friend Tony without taking a huge risk, but another zoo resident might be able to help. Abby, the Dachshund, was friendly with people and animals and small and harmless, making her the perfect lion companion. John didn't expect what happened within seconds of their first meeting. Abby entered the lion cage without hesitation. Anyone can be brave, but entering a lion's cage may require some caution. John slowly entered the enclosure with Abby on a tight leash while another zookeeper held Bonediger. He expected the little dog to hang around his legs to make sure it was safe before continuing, but it didn't. Abby pulled at the leash and jumped up as soon as she saw the big cat, eager to play with her new toothy friend. John had to go slow. He didn't expect park visitors to take photos of sausagey legs disappearing into the lion's mouth. When he looked up from the excited dog, he jumped when he saw the lion had escaped the other keeper and was heading for Abby. Bonedigger froze in front of Abby, eyes wild. Abby was unfazed. She kept sniffing the wild cat that could swallow her. The lion keeper who lost control lay on his back, breathing heavily, watching the scene unfold. John gulped and slowly backed out of the cage, but Bonedigger refused. Abby barked, but Bonedigger did not respond. The lion recoiled at the haughty dog. The lion sniffed the sausage dog despite appearing scared of Abby. Things changed. Abby wagged her tail in excitement to meet a new friend, but everyone looking into the cage was more concerned with what the lion would do next. John unleashed Abby to advance. He didn't expect the curious pup to go straight for Bonedigger's toys. The lion immediately pounced to protect them. Abby looked up at the lion between her and her new toys and licked its nose. Bonedigger stood dumbfounded at the dog's cheek. John knew Abby didn't know which animals were dangerous. Bonedigger moved after assessing Abby. Bonedigger and Abby bonded. After their first meeting, they played in the cage for hours. Bonedigger rejoiced at having a friend. It was amazing how this tiny dog was unafraid of a young lion that could seriously hurt her. However, that's normal. Dachshunds don't seem to realize their size, so they are unfazed by bigger, dangerous, or hungry animals. Abby was just what Bonedigger needed. John added more unusual friends for the lonely lion, turning it into a pride. Abby got her own bed in a larger enclosure with Bonedigger and her new best friend. Bonedigger quickly made friends with 3 more Dachshunds. He joined their pack and their pride. They never separate except when John cleans their enclosure. John enters the enclosure occasionally to trim grass and remove weeds. John must remove the Dachshunds because they attack the weed whacker. Bonedigger paces and cries. As soon as he finishes weeding, he lets the wiener dogs back in and counts them. He loves Abby most. John believes Abby and Bonedigger are closer than the other 3 wiener dogs. He bites fleas like dogs. It's insane. This could be a fluke. It's not the only dog-cat story. A Russian zoo rescued 3 rejected tiger cubs thousands of miles away. Madagascar zoo employees in Nizhny Novgorod, Russia, expected a celebration. Scheherazade, their very pregnant tigress, went into labor and everyone prepared to welcome the new cubs. However, everyone in the zoo knew that these births brought fear. Many animals reject their newborns, including tigers. They may want to breed again or reduce their litter size to better care for their cubs in harsh conditions. However, zoo life may be the cause. Workers fear animal stress. The team, including zookeeper Olga Prokhorova, held their breath as the cubs were born. They watched and coaxed. Tiger sniffed. The cub's fate was decided next. Her departure deflated everyone. Clear signs. Her new children were off limits. Olga sighed against the window. The baby's cute peeps and cries were heartbreaking now. Selling them was sadder. 2 brothers went to other zoos. The last cub left within days. The goat's milk fed him, but the fuzzy blankets didn't calm him. Olga banged her head on the desk, praying for inspiration. The answer rushed in. Olga watched as the black and brown dog clawed at the window to reach the crying baby, and her mind began to formulate a plan. Could it work? Olga asked. That was their first attempt. She was crazy, but they had no ideas. What could go wrong? Slow, careful introduction. The grown dog excitedly wagged her tail. The cub swayed on the other. After sniffing, the dog licked the cub's face. It continued. It started there. Olga cried as the maternal mutt curled around the cat and the baby fell asleep instantly. Though unusual, it was moving. They became inseparable. The cub learned to walk quickly, so they walked the zoo together. Playing began. They bounced around each other. Each cat and dog played a little like the other but had fun. The new family was the highlight of every shift, and separation stress vanished. They were zoo favorites. The zookeeper was slightly heartbroken at the prospect of selling the cub. The tiny creature was loved and safe for now. Mothered. Another animal miracle. This has happened before. Many tales demonstrate animal friendship. It's actually quite common. Even two species that are natural enemies can get along. Next story's protagonists, Tiger's South Carolina keeper is China York. The complex houses apes, lions, and hippos. One of its residents, a close friend of China, is famous. Her quirky and endearing behavior has made her a media staple. Anjana, a chimpanzee born in the institute, is the complex's most famous character. China had a strange connection to the chimp since Anjana was born. As she grew up, something else deepened their bond. Since birth, Anjana followed China. China was the chimpanzee's only mother since her mother died shortly after birth. Anjana watched China complete her weekly tasks every day. Anjana liked one. China raises animals. She cares for hundreds of newborn animals. Since she could walk, Anjana has seen her do this with other animals. She tried it one day, shocking everyone. Anjana is now China's caregiver assistant. She has raised leopards, lions, orangutans, said Tiger's founder Dr. Begavan. She copied China and helped raise the animals. The media has focused on Anjana's youngest stepson. The media published photos of chimpanzee Anjana playing with white tiger cubs. The pictures charmed everyone and made them curious about Anjana. There was more. The white tiger cubs and Anjana's adoption made their story particularly moving. Mitra and Shiver, the tiger cubs, suffered. They were born in the complex but separated from their mother due to dramatic circumstances. Dr. Begavan, Tiger's founder, said Mitra and Shiver were born during Hurricane Hannah. The sanctuary flooded, and their mother became stressed, so they had to be moved into the house. Their safety required separation. China took Mitra and Shiver. Anjana the chimp loved the two white cats the moment she saw them. Anjana's care for the cubs has surprised everyone. Dr. Begavan says Anjana has been with China since birth and has helped raise baby animals. She helped her and became a surrogate mother to these animals, as well as these baby white tigers. Anjana learned by watching and imitating like an ape, thanks to her intelligence. Dr. Begavan notes that chimpanzees learn and imitate quickly. She lies with them and gives them a bottle. She bonds and nurtures them, he says. China said, she picked up on the fact that I am taking care of them, so she wants to. She gently gives them her finger when they cry. Anjana even shares Mitra and Shiver's bed. China indicates that this will change. It will go on until the cubs get too big and start playing rough. Anjana's reaction isn't so funny, big teeth, says China. Anjana has raised big cats before. She raised for inseparable lions. Dr. Begavan praises her. More. Anjana currently cares for Sierra, an orphan puma cub. She helps China feed, cuddle, chase, and play like Mitra and Shiver. China says Anjana will catch Sierra if she's running too fast. Dr. Antle, another Tiger's employee, says she is a great assistant. She'll get a baby wipe if you ask. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again in the next video.